This applies across all trials, whether you're I wouldn't necessarily say it applies at your younger age group because they're just starting out, unless your player or child has a unique talent or skill set that comes up in a trial. So it's like when scouts are watching you and they say, "Wow, this player is really good." This is more for, I guess, players for the older age groups, so under 13s to 16s. So I would say this would technically apply from like under 9 upwards. Under 6, under 7, under 8, they're just looking to play for fun and they're looking to enjoy and build that momentum of playing higher level football, and it's like a snowball effect. You start small and you just work your way up eventually to a point where you're building momentum, you're playing against harder teams, your child is developing as well, and eventually then you get to this point. And obviously there's a couple of things your child should do at a trial as well. So obviously preparing technically, so they're technically competent. Being fit, I think that's a very unspoken thing, but if they're it doesn't necessarily matter as much as your child because they're going to develop that anyway. But for more under 13 to under 16 level, if you're not committing to bettering yourself from a physical point of view, I think you got that. That's where it ends really. So you really have to focus on getting fitter, stronger, sharper, and being just more intelligent. I think that's so. It's such an underrated asset or trait for a player to be intelligent at that age, and that only comes by being fitter, being sharper, making decisions quicker. So that's where that applies. And obviously your professionalism, not so much for the younger ones. Obviously as a parent you are the one responsible, but for the older kids, show up on time. Give the respect to the coach that they deserve. Like for example, you giving yourself the best impression to make it into that football club. So if you arrive on time, you ask questions, you're really 100% committed into the trial and you're showing that sign of progress, that's what's going to attract the coaches more. And that you build that relationship over time. So that's from a pre-trials perspective. From when you're at the trial, this is where we've got the playing with confidence, being a team player, staying positive, and show commitment. So again, that's after the trial. During the trial, playing with confidence. This is where you show off your talent, your skills. Don't worry about if you're not technically there yet. It's all about your mindset and your mentality. That's what's going to take you far. That's what's going to set you apart from players that aren't going to make it because you're more focused and you're more hungry and your desire levels there. That's what's cross transferable from under sevens up to professional football. You see Pep Guardiola talking to his players when they're not hungry or they don't have the desire to win games. That is so important. So that is something that you can develop as early as possible. It's probably the best thing to do is to play with confidence and take risks. Obviously not disregard your teammates, but when you have a situation, for example, in a 1v1, that's the opportunity to shine. Being a team player, so communication is very, very important, I would suggest. Purely because it shows that you can work in any system, in any formation. It doesn't matter as long as you can communicate and as long as you're intelligent. You can then understand and help impact the team as well as impact the game as well. Staying positive in a trial. If you've never been to a trial before, the only way to get rid of the nerves is by going to as many trials as you can and get as much feedback as you can and improve one thing from the previous trial. So for example, first trial, you've got no idea what to expect. You go in and you just throw yourself in the deep end. Fair enough, you're not prepared. It doesn't matter. Don't worry about your level at that first trial because you've never been to one. You've got to cut yourself some slack because it's your first trial, you're trying your best, and you're only going to learn once you get the feedback from that first trial. Okay, coaches will give you a couple bits of feedback. I know it might sting a little bit, it might hurt your ego, but look, you've got to put that aside if you want to develop and improve as a player. So then you go to, let's say a couple months, you've prepared all the feedback for them from your coaches, what they've given you, then you go to the next trial. Then there's a significant improvement because not only have you learnt from your previous trial, you've now also actioned on one or two things that have been suggested to you to improve. So now that jump is significant. Then even if you don't get selected in the next trial, that progress should be valid for you. Then you work on the next set of feedback. Then now you've got a lot of information for you to then cover. Okay, this is what I've done well at. This is what I need to improve on. And you keep working on those 1% until you get to the point where you've done 4 or 5 or 6 trials and you just keep working. The idea is to be relentless. The idea is to work on and improve on your previous version of yourself such that when it comes to the next trial, you're only reducing the level of or the percentage of someone saying no to you. That's the idea. It's close the gap of someone saying no to you as much as you can. And obviously here you've got this, obviously the trial don't. So this is the all complete opposite. If you've got a vision of what you want to perform at a trial, this is your anti-vision. So this is don't show up unprepared, making sure you're technically on point, technically got everything down, you're physically sharp. You don't argue with the coaches and teams. Yes, I mean, in a hit of a moment, I think I can vouch for myself for that, in the sense that sometimes I do get a bit frustrated when I play sometimes. Don't argue with a negative tone. Be encouraging, be supportive, but also question sometimes what your teammates are doing. Questioning is better. And in a questioning in a respectful way, if you don't understand something, ask the coach. Don't just say, oh no, but this doesn't work. You haven't tried it. So it's the attitude and mentality again. Playing selfishly, I think again it goes with the confidence. It's like a spectrum. You have confidence and you have arrogance and selfishness. And playing with confidence means you can beat your player 1v1. Also, you can play with your team and you're in that flow state of mind where you're the metronome of the team. Playing selfish is like you're the one that's... It depends. It does depend per position. For example, a striker, I would want my striker to be selfish. But having said that, if he's also a team player, he's also thinking about his teammates around him. But when the time comes for a 1v1 situation and he's got to score, he will do it. So the selfish thing does play... There's different points to that. There's different perspectives to that. Giving up after mistakes. So that goes back to your attitude point where you're thinking about, once you made a mistake, can you just forget about it and move on to the next? You're going to make mistakes. Over 90 minutes, I'm sure there will be definitely some mistakes that you make. Pros do it all the time. That gives you that excuse and that sort of liberation where, okay, I can't afford to make a mistake. Okay, what can I do to rectify that error? What can I do next time to prevent that from happening again? But again, you're going to be making other mistakes. So it's a constant learning curve, and it's something that you just have to take it as a positive that you're making a mistake. If you're not making any mistakes, the level is probably too easy for you. And don't rely on natural talent alone. If you might be the best player in the world in terms of your talent, but if you don't nurture that with hard work and training and good discipline, it all goes out the window. It's null and void, essentially. And obviously focusing on your performance and rather than focusing on others. Don't try and pinpoint the blame on other people. Have some self-accountability, and you can try your best and get better.